Hey guys, and welcome back to Mad About Skin. In today's video, we are talking the Inkey List. Once the fastest growing brand in skincare, more recently the sales picture has been a little bit more turbulent. The Inkey List was often seen as the main rival to The Ordinary, offering beautifully simplistic formulations, amazing sleek packaging, and of course that beautiful drugstore price point. But while The Ordinary sales have gone up and up, the same can't be said for the Inkey List. So I thought let's do a little bit of a deep dive, do a close-up look at kind of where things started to go wrong. The most recent launch from the Inkey List has started to pick up a little bit of viral traction online. So we're going to look at that and work out, is that enough to ultimately save the brand? Sit back, relax, let's talk all things the Inkey List skincare. Now, of course, when it comes to the Inkey List, these are just my thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and of course, I would love to know yours. I think with the Inkey List, there isn't just one thing that's really led to a bit of a downfall with the brand. It's a series of things over many years, and I think a lot of people might have just forgotten about the brand entirely. That kind of was the experience I had. I'd love to know what your thoughts and opinions are, so sound off in the comments section below. Do you still use the Inkey List products? What's your personal favourite? Let me know. Or, like me, have you kind of just fallen out of love with them? Forgotten that they existed? Again, sound off in the comments section, because I always love to hear the opinions of the Mad About Skin community. Whatever your thoughts on the Inkey List as a brand, if you want to see more content like this, where we do a bit of a deep dive, lift the hood into some of the big name skincare brands, then let me know by reaching down and giving the video a big thumbs up and a like. This really does support me as a content creator, because the more likes the video gets, the more widely YouTube will distribute it on its platform. So from the bottom of my heart, love to each and every one of you. Now, without further ado, let's cut that waffle and delve straight on in. So the Inkey List, it was founded around 6 years ago, and it kind of took off from nowhere. It went from basically no one hearing of the brand to just being on the lips of everyone and seen in every single drugstore. Their rise was like meteoric, and it was always going to be hard to sustain that momentum. Of course, that wasn't just by accident. The founders of the Inkey List actually had a background in the beauty market. They had the right connections, they had that insider advantage, which allowed for them to launch on a global scale from practically day one. I think someone said that they hit their millionth sale within the first 12 weeks. I don't know how true that is, but if that is accurate, honestly, that is like mind-blowing. And for one point, they were almost seen as untouchable. Lots of people used to compare them to The Ordinary. Like I say, they had that same sleek utilitarian packaging, very simplistic formulations that allow people to take things back to basics, and of course that really affordable price point. But whilst The Ordinary has gone from strength to strength, the same can't be said for the Inkey List, and their newer launches really haven't hit home in terms of popularity the way that The Ordinary's ones have. So I thought this would be good to do a little bit of a comparison and kind of see where it went wrong. For me, I've always been a huge fan of the Inkey List. If you go back to some of my earlier videos, say 4 years ago, I was always talking about the brand. They were a core part in my skincare routine, and I really loved a lot of their formulations. I can't really pinpoint one specific thing that made me just to lead myself away from the brand, stop using them with the same frequency. But when I look back, there's a couple of things that I'm going to call out, I'm going to talk about in today's video. Of course, there is no right and wrong. This is just me doing a little bit of a thought piece on skincare. If you still use the Inkey List and love them, keep on using them. When it comes to skincare, use what works for you. But I think the first issue that really started to emerge when it came to the Inkey List was this focus on fast skincare. The brand owners actually said it themselves very early on in their journey. They said they wanted to be the skincare equivalent of fast fashion. Now, that was really popular 6 years ago, but now people just kind of take a more conscientious approach to consuming. It's not about buying every single thing that exists. It's more about taking a cultured, curated look at what we actually need and then working out whether we want to spend our coin on it. That sort of fast fashion approach might have worked very early on, but it kind of doesn't hit the same now. It's also possibly leading to just an over-churning of new products. If you take a look at The Ordinary, which might have 1 or 2 new launches every year, you can see that that's still enough to keep people interested, but it's not so much that it almost becomes overwhelming. A couple of years ago, the Inkey List actually launched 26 new products in 1 year. That's like 1 every 2 weeks. That is way too much, and it doesn't really allow for any one product to shine. Whilst people are getting to know one product, boom, there's another one hit the market, and then focus shifts to that. So it almost becomes, like I say, overwhelming and too much. And then of course people start to question, and this is definitely something I started to ask, how good are these formulations if they're churning them out so regularly? You know, are they really putting the thought and the feeling behind each and every one, or are they just coming up with the next thing that they can sell to keep those cash registers ringing? For me, it seemed a little bit like a cash grab kind of forming, and that was one of the biggest turn-offs. I was never a big fan of fast fashion. I'm certainly not a fan of fast skincare. Consistency is key, and that, I think, is where the Inkey List kind of lost it. We also, keeping with like fashion, shall we? I think tastes change over time. If you look back 6 years ago, people loved the aesthetic of the Inkey List and the Ordinary. That beautifully sleek white packaging that kind of was no frills. They weren't over-promising and under-delivering. They just had packaging that looked great. It looked nice all together, kind of presented a uniform picture on your vanity, and people really bought into that. Of course, 6 years later, trends have changed and people want a little bit more from the packaging. They want things that are uplifting, exciting, and I think as a result that the Inkey List packaging kind of just comes across a bit boring. Now, that might just be my thoughts and opinions, and you guys can feel free to roast me in the comments if you disagree, but again, it doesn't stand out on a shelf. And whilst I would never buy a skincare product based on the packaging, really, we're investing in the formulation. A lot of people want to walk past a product, have it grab their eye, and then they try it for the first time. Very few people are going to do that with the Inkey List because it just gets lost in all the riot of colour that you now see at the drugstore. Of course, these trends might change again in a couple of years' time, and that style of packaging might be back in vogue. But at the moment, I think that's another reason they're kind of getting forgotten about and overlooked. It kind of all looks the same, and yeah, this for me isn't something that appealed the same way it did 6 years ago. Now, that's all face value stuff. You know, that's the sort of thing that you'll either love or you won't when it comes to packaging. Going to a deeper level, I think really what turned a lot of the core skincare community off the Inkey List was some of their problematic claims. Now, this was actually best exposed by Lab Muffin, who over on her channel has done a couple of videos looking at the Inkey List and kind of debunking some of their claims. I'll find a couple of them and I'll link them in the description box. Definitely check it out. She really does it in a scientific way, which I fully appreciate and love. So yeah, definitely check that out. But the claims started to look a little bit too much. Whereas the Ordinary always kept it fairly low-key. You know, saying this is what our product can do. The product then delivered that, people were happy. The Inkey List decided to try and get a leg up on that and started over-promising, and as a result, under-delivering. You had things like the plumping lip balm where they did like side-by-side pictures, which I'm not an expert when it comes to like photography and things, but you could tell it was in different lighting. It wasn't like an equal side-by-side comparison, and that was quite obvious to people. It also wasn't the sort of product that was really ever going to plump massively in the long term, so they overinflated the claims, and as a result, people were disappointed. They had the succinic acid blemish treatment, a great product which I absolutely loved, but again, they focused on that succinic acid because it sounded new, innovative, sexy, like it had that appeal, but actually it was in a very low concentration, and it was a lot of the other ingredients that were actually doing the heavy lifting. And this sort of marketing, people kind of got quite quickly bored of and thought, you know, we want skincare that works. We don't want skincare that's overhyped. And I think the Inkey List kind of allowed their own hype train to run away with them. Of course, this then went wider than just like Lab Muffin and some of the scientific focused content creators. James Welsh has spoken about it on his channel, it was all over Instagram. And just a couple of instances like this quickly erodes trust in a brand, and that I think is what's happened now. Of course, the biggest issue for me was with their original retinol serum, which was a 1% retinol. Said it all over the packaging, 1% retinol. I was like, that's a good dose of retinol. I started my retinol journey with it. Of course, it then came out that it wasn't a 1% retinol. It was a 1% retistar complex, which actually was a compound of different components, and when you broke it down, it was equivalent of about a 0.2% retinol. Really, that's doing nothing. And this kind of emerged online. People started talking about it. Then it was confirmed with the new EU retinol restrictions where the Inkey List can still sell their product into the EU because the concentration of retinol is below 0.3%, which we all kind of knew before then, but it really just became very apparent that that marketing was very misleading from the start. And that, again, for me, I trusted my skin with that product, and I wondered why I maybe didn't get the same results I was hoping for. it's because we weren't really getting the percentage we thought we were. Shady, shady, shady. And then finally, for a lot of people, and this maybe I think was the biggest deal breaker for me, was the whole Selfless by Hyram saga situation and launch. So Hyram is the biggest content creator in the skincare space here on YouTube. Really nice chap, and came out with his own skincare line, and everyone was really excited. They said that it was powered by the Inkey List, which people didn't really know what that meant. Did they own it? Did they just make it? Did they come up with the formulations? No one knew. Anyway, when it launched, people were, pleasantly surprised by some of the products, underwhelmed by others, but were really shocked by the price point. It was much more elevated than people expected, especially when you looked at those formulations. Of course, it sold really well on launch. People were really keen to try it, but very few people repurchased, and soon it started to unravel, and it became very clear that actually Hyram didn't own the brand. This was the Inkey List that owned it. They were really just using his name, paying him whatever to do so, but using his name, and that kind of became a real problem because they weren't really invested in the brand. The new launches stopped. They launched that really dodgy serum, which was like a Q10 serum that didn't contain Q10. They got around it by saying it contained a peptide that encouraged the body to create Q10. Load of nonsense. Like, that was the sort of marketing BS that people were really fed up with at this point, and it really did nothing for the brand. More recently, Hyram's actually bought the brand off the Inkey List, so bought them out. He now owns the brand and then can take it forward, and I wish him all the success in the world. I really, really hope this is a triumph. But all of that episode, it just seemed that, again, the Inkey List were in it for a quick like smash and grab approach to get the cash registers ringing and then ditch the brand as soon as possible. And I feel that, personally, I think that they took advantage and used Hyram in that situation. And that doesn't sit well with me. That's not what a good brand does. You guys might disagree, and that is absolutely fine. Sound off in the comments, but for me, that just didn't sit right, and yeah, I think it just compounded some of the thoughts I already had about the brand. So things really weren't going the Inkey List way. People had stopped talking about them. You didn't see people singing the praises of their products online until recently, where they launched their Ectoin Serum. So this is I believe, the latest launch from the Inkey List, and this has actually picked up a bit of viral traction. Now, I would actually say I've been very underwhelmed by the recent launches from the Inkey List. This one is probably the exception. It's actually quite a good product. Ectoin is a fantastic calming, soothing, barrier supporting ingredient. I absolutely love it, and normally it comes with a really high price point. The Dr. Sam Bunting range has a couple of products that contain it. I love them, but again, with a higher price point. So coming in at, I think this is like £15 here in the UK, a beautifully affordable Ectoin serum that really could deliver calming, soothing, and barrier support. This got me interested. I did try it. I've got an intense fear of missing out. I might not be the biggest fan of the brand, but I had that fear of missing out, tried it, and it is actually lovely. Smooths onto the skin, instantly calms, soothes, hydrates, and will support with barrier function in the long term. This is a real win, and online lots of people are talking about it. So is this enough to save the Inkey List? Well, I think possibly, and I'm going to caveat this heavily by saying one launch isn't going to do it. They need to follow this product up with other good, innovative, truly something different products. Not relying on some BS marketing, but actually come up with something decent like this product, and maybe 3 or 4 new products like this in. Then I think people might be excited about the brand again. The Ordinary went through their own stale phase where they didn't have many new launches, people started to lose interest. Then they just had hit after hit after hit, and everyone got excited again. Now they've regained their position as the most talked about skincare brand on planet Earth. The same could happen with the Inkey List, but I think they really need to go back to basics. Stop with all of this overhyped marketing. Go back to just quality formulations, affordable prices, and be honest and transparent. In 2025, people and consumers expect a lot more than maybe they did 6 years ago. We see through things the way we maybe didn't originally. So that sort of stuff doesn't fly. So yes, I think if this Ectoin serum is repeated, the Inkey List could have a bright future. But if they go back to their default of overhype, underdeliver, I think honestly it might be curtains. What do you guys think? For me, The Ordinary will always have my heart. I think great formulations, fantastic price point, innovation without over-promising. The Inkey List could absolutely have been that rival, but I feel through the dodgy marketing, I think some of their failed launches, the reformulations, which haven't even touched on, they reformulated a lot of the favourite core products that just were more cheaply made and didn't feel as good, and that focus on like fast skincare, churning out the products, that really turned a lot of people off. So yeah, what do you think? Bright future for the Inkey List, or is this just flash in the pan. We're going to continue to fade from here on out. Sound off in the comment section below and let me know. I love creating these videos, doing a bit of a deep dive into skincare brands. I'm completely sponsorship and paid partnership free here on YouTube, and I think that gives me the ability to talk about brands because, you know, they can't withhold the sponsorships from me because I never take them in the first place. So it allows me to retain my independence and come at things from an unbiased perspective. So if you'd like to hear about any other brands or any other deep dives, let me know in the comments. And if you've made it this far and you appreciate sponsorship free skincare content here on YouTube, make sure to let me know by reaching down and giving the video a big thumbs up and a like. Wherever you are in the world, guys, stay safe, stay well, and love your skin. Take care. Bye.